Throughout the late 80s and early 90s, Skid Row and their classic lineup of Sebastian Bach, guitarist Dave Snake Sabo and Scotti Hill, bassist Rachel Bolan, and drummer Rob Affuso were one of the premier bands in the world of hard rock and metal, and in my opinion, sort of unfairly classified as a hair band. By the mid to late 90s, though, the band had basically fallen apart upon Bach's exit, which saw Skid Row spending the next couple of decades going from arenas and stadiums, albeit as a sport act, to becoming a club and county fair act, and burning through a number of various singers to minimal fanfare and success. Now, though, the band seems to have found new life with their new singer Erik Grönwall and their most recent release, The Gang's All Here, which, aside from the name, is a fantastic album, and it has been received as such. So today, we're going to take a look at how Skid Row took a very hard fall from grace and spent the next 20 plus years rebuilding and ultimately revitalizing the band. Skid Row released 3 incredible records throughout their time with Sebastian Bach on vocals: 1989's incredible self-titled, 1991's Slave to the Grind, and the extremely underrated Subhuman Race in 1995, which is quite a departure from the first two, which is why I don't think it gets enough attention as it deserves. But definitely worth checking out. It's pretty much a metal record. If you're not familiar with it, 100% worth your time. And as I've mentioned on the show before, I'm a sucker for a good ballad, and Breaking Down is one of the best out there, period. In 1996, Sebastian Bach would ultimately be fired from Skid Row, in part due to an argument over supporting Kiss on the Alive Worldwide tour, even though they would end up doing it without him years later, but we'll get to that in a moment. And Sebastian just not being into the new music that they were working on, with him saying, quote, "The reason they did that tour without me is because Doc McGee works for Kiss and Snake works for Doc, and that's their whole scene. But I was 100% fired from the band. They sent me some new music, and I told them straight up that I didn't like it, and I wanted us to write some more because I wasn't going to sing those songs. They got all mad, and Doc called me and said, 'Well, you have to sing it because you're the singer in the band, Sebastian.' To which I said, 'Well, if you like it, then you sing it. I didn't get into this business to sing music that I don't like just to put something out.' I told those guys, 'I don't know about you, Mr. Rock Band guitarist and bassist, but I didn't get into this rock and roll band to play songs that suck.'" Skid Row would ultimately be put on ice for a few years following Bach's exit, with the remaining 4 members forming a new band called Ozone Monday, with new singer Sean McCobb of a band called Mars Needs Women. The one song I heard from them sounds straight out of the 90s. Clearly they were listening to a lot of Collective Soul at that time. Here's a quick clip. Obviously, Ozone Monday wound up going absolutely nowhere, and by 1999, Skid Row would reform without Bach and drummer Rob Affuso, as Rob refused to rejoin the band without Sebastian. They were replaced by Johnny Solinger and Saigon Kick's Phil Varone, respectively. It is worth noting that before adding Phil on drums, they had an old friend of theirs, Charlie Mill, who was the drummer before Rob, but as the band noted on their website at the time, he had to leave the band for a second time due to a, quote, lack of income, which should really put into perspective for you exactly where Skid Row was at that point in their career. Hilariously, of course, as I mentioned, the newly reformed Skid Row's first tour was on Kiss's first farewell tour in 2000, which, goddamn, imagine how pissed Bach had to be when that got announced. Holy shit. That was then followed up in 2002 with the Rock Never Stops tour with Tesla, Vince Neil Solo, and Jackal. While that's a great lineup, especially Tesla and Jackal, I do find it kind of funny that a lot of these branded tours that include the word rock and how great it is in the name, they almost always feature bands that are long past their prime. Things such as Rock Never Stops, and let's not forget the groundbreaking Make America Rock Again in 2016 and 17. that included such timeless bands as Trapped, Saving Abel, Alien Ant Farm, and Crazy Town.
Come my lady, come my lady.
In 2003, the band would release their fourth album and first without Bach, Thick Skin. The lead single, Ghost, is a halfway decent song, though of course it doesn't hold a candle to the Bach era material, but hey, if nothing else, Thick Skin does feature the song I Remember You Too, which is a punk version of I Remember You. So yeah, there's that. Cool. Shortly after Thick Skin released, drummer Phil Varone left the band, with drummer Dave Gara replacing him, eventually appearing on 2006's Revolutions Per Minute. Much like Thick Skin, not really too much to say about Revolutions, but I think that some of these song titles can help sum up the album for you. Another Dick in the System, Shut Up Baby, I Love You, and White Trash. The following year, in 2007, the band recorded their version of Jingle Bells. So as you can probably tell, this is quite a riveting time for the boys in Skid Row. Sebastian Bach was out there headlining Broadway shows, appearing on reality TV, even auditioning for Velvet Revolver, releasing his phenomenal solo album Angel Down. And there Skid Row is, releasing subpar records and recording covers of Christmas classics. So fuck Sebastian Bach, right? Who needs him? In 2008, Skid Row took part in Vince Neil's Motley Cruise, along with Rat and Slaughter, and no Motley, but Vince was performing solo. In theory, Motley Cruise is a great idea, and 2008 was a great year for the crew, as that was the year they launched Crewfest and released Saints of Los Angeles, which is a highly underrated album. But anyways, had the band themselves been involved, I think it could have potentially turned into a big annual thing like the Kiss Cruise or the Monsters of Rock Cruise, Shiprocked, anything like that, but it doesn't even matter. That's neither here nor there. I'm always just looking for an excuse to slide Motley into these videos. Aside from Rob Hammersmith becoming the new Skid Row drummer in 2010, things would stay fairly quiet until 2013 when the band signed with Megaforce Records and announced the first of what was supposed to be a trilogy of EPs, United World Rebellion Chapter 1, with Chapter 2 eventually releasing in 2014. In all honesty, these are pretty solid and probably Johnny Solinger's best work with the band. As with Thick Skin and Revolutions Per Minute, they're nowhere near classic status, but a solid effort nonetheless. They do some covers on both, including Judas Priest United, Queen's Sheer Heart Attack, and Aerosmith's Rat in the Cellar, all of which are rather unnecessary. I could do without them, but nonetheless, definitely worth checking out Chapter 1 or 2 if you're unfamiliar with either of them. Unfortunately, United World Rebellion Chapter 3 would never be released, as in April of 2015, Skid Row would end up firing Johnny Solinger after 15 years, and to top it off, they fired him over the fucking phone. When talking about this with Eddie Trunk, Rachel said, without bagging on the guy, there's still a connection hopefully there with him because we were all brothers at one time. It just became evident a while back, not a long while, but maybe a year or so, that everyone was going in a different direction as far as him and the band. And we just wanted to be the best band we could be, and I think Johnny had a different idea for quality. So it was just one of those things, man. We talked about it and we wrestled over it and we were like, this is Skid Row. This means a lot to us. We started doing this over 25 years ago. And it's something that sucks doing, but we're okay with doing it because this is Skid Row. This is our lives. They would go on to announce Johnny's replacement on the same fucking day that they fired him. And his replacement, the one, the only, the legendary Tony Harnell of TNT. 10,000 Lovers in One, baby. His one contribution to the band, a one-for-one re-recorded version of the band's classic, 18 in Life. Look, in all seriousness, Tony Harnell really is a phenomenal vocalist. TNT actually has some decent stuff other than just 10,000 Lovers in One, but a re-recorded version of arguably the band's biggest hit, give me a fucking break. Completely unnecessary. This is just like when Journey, when Arnell joined the band and they released a bunch of re-recorded versions of some of their hits. What's the fucking point? Doesn't even matter though, as Tony only lasted 8 months until he quit in December of 2015, being replaced by ZP Theart of the Guitar Hero Legends Dragonforce. Aside from touring, nothing really notable happened during ZP's tenure with the band. They were supposed to release the third part of the United World Rebellion trilogy, but it was never released, and honestly, I don't even know if anything was recorded. I think some stuff was written, but I don't think that it ever got past that stage. Sadly, in May of 2021, Johnny Solinger released a statement revealing that he was suffering from liver failure, writing in part, "It is with a heavy heart I must let everyone know what's going on with me and my health. I have been hospitalized for over the last month. I have been diagnosed with liver failure, and the prognosis is not so good. As with most musicians, I do not have health insurance, and it's very difficult to get proper care without it. I am currently under at least 7 different medications, and I need to have my abdomen drained of fluid that gets accumulated every couple of days. I have lost a lot of strength and will require physical therapy as well." Unfortunately, just a month later in June, Johnny sadly passed away. Skid Row released a statement at the time saying, quote, "We are saddened to hear the news of our brother Johnny Solinger. Our thoughts are with his family, friends, and fans. Godspeed, Singo. Say hello to Scrappy for us." Almost a year ago to the date of this releasing, on March 23rd, 2022, the band and ZP Theart went their separate ways, with Swedish singer and former Swedish Idol winner Erik Grönwall taking his place. Initially, it's like, Jesus fucking Christ, how much lead singer drama can one band have with all of the lineup changes and the constant Bach reunion rumors? But holy fuck, when that first single, The Gang's All Here, came out, for one, I was like, God, that's a terrible name. But my God, what a great tune. They fucking brought it. The band would eventually release the album of the same name, The Gang's All Here, in October of last year to rave reviews, and rightfully so. That album fucking rips from top to bottom. Definitely worth your time, and they're out on the road co-headlining with Buckcherry right now. Definitely worth checking out a show if it's coming near you. Somehow, after all the ups and downs, mostly downs, of post-Sebastian Bach Skid Row, they have managed to make a massive comeback with a phenomenal new singer who is also a younger guy, and I'm sure he's injected a bit of new life into the band as well. While a reunion with Sebastian is still certainly something I think all of us would prefer, myself included, in my opinion, this is almost just as good because it's something fresh, not something we've already seen before. All right, though, I gotta run. My fiance wants to pretend that I am Jesus as I slip into her quicksand, so I gotta go. But hey, Easter is coming, so hopefully I will make a return in 3 days for the next video. But thanks so much for watching. Feel free to subscribe if you want to see more, and I will see you next time.